Well, hello, family. How are you doing today? This is Bob Z, and with the brand new podcast, but it's not really a brand new podcast. We refaced it a little bit. It was Unfiltered with Bob Z, and for season 2, we come out with a brand new name, a brand new slogan. So now you're dealing with Bob Z UnKUT. I don't know if that makes me more dangerous or less dangerous, but we're gonna see. And so today we have a very special guest in the house. I'm really excited. Being a native of Mermaid City, I'm just so happy to see anytime one of us from Mermaid City, we get a chance to come out and run for a statewide office. I'm always pleased, and if it's somebody that I support and I think is a good candidate, then I'm doubly pleased. So I just want you guys to welcome to the show City Councilwoman. I'm gonna have to stop getting used to saying City Councilwoman and start getting used to saying Lieutenant Governor. I'm putting my name on it. So City Councilwoman Andria McClellan, she's running for Lieutenant Governor for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so we're gonna talk about that. So let's just get started. Let's delve right into it. And the last time you were on the show, the first season for our election special, and I named it I named each segment, each episode, I named it Facts, because this lady, she kicks some good facts, and I appreciate that, particularly coming from the political realm. Let's just say that, the political realm. Now that you've been actively engaged in the process, I know last time you were like saying, well, I'm forming my, everyone says I'm forming my committee and da-da-da-da-da. But now that you've been actively engaged in the process, why are we voting for you again?
Well, the last time I was here, I think it was in the fall, at a committee, kicked off the campaign December 1st for Lieutenant Governor. And I am the only candidate in a pretty crowded Democratic primary field from Hampton Roads.
Okay.
So somebody who understands what's going on in the 757. I'm the only candidate who understands how cities work, cities and counties work. And at the end of the day, a lot of what happens in Richmond in state government doesn't always translate here at the local level. So having somebody who has that knowledge and connection is really important. The last person who brought that skill set to the lieutenant governor's role was Tim Kaine, who had been on the Richmond City Council and Richmond Mayor. He did a pretty good job and hope to follow suit. The third thing is I do keep it real. I do bring the facts. And, I think I'm a pragmatic, practical politician who gets things done and builds coalitions, and that's what I've been doing. So I'm very excited about the opportunity. I bring a business perspective. That's where I got started out of college, and I understand also though what the issues are on the ground, and I think what you've seen from me
right.
is that I really want to listen to people, and I want to make people's lives better at the end of the day, and that's why I'm running.
Well, I truly believe that. What I'm hearing the most, and I'm hearing it from all different sectors, and I'm kind of a I told you so kind of guy. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, that's just me. And it's like, she's progressive. And like, I told you so. I told you so. And as far as, I remember being in different circumstances. I'm not going into all that, but, and I couldn't turn to anyone. I turned to this lady right here. And she was like, this is what you need to do. And I was like, wow, it blew my mind. And so, I could go on and I'm not gonna keep on, but facts, it's facts. That's what happened.
Well, listen, the whole term progressive is a complicated one, right? If you want progress, which is what I strive to do, I'm progressive, right? And at the end of the day, I want to make, my theme of my campaign is creating more equitable access to opportunity.
Okay.
Everybody wants a pathway to success. So whether it's you want a good job, a good paying job, a fair job, let's talk about that. If you want to make sure that your kids have a good education and that you have affordable housing that's quality, or you have access to public transit. Those are all the things that I've been doing and what I want to do at the state level. And, we have some issues here in the Mermaid City, and I've been trying to tackle those. But those same issues exist in all of our communities throughout the Commonwealth.
They do. And even when we think about, I think people were running away from the term liberal. And as a little kid, I know it's just like liberal or conservative. And I say, is the root word of liberal liberty? And I was like, what's wrong with that? So when you say progress for progressive, I'm like, okay, we can't make those words, I guess, dirty words to say it, because it's not. Okay, I try to do my due diligence. I try to do some research. Usually, sometimes I get all into like, I know, but I say I'm gonna research. So I found out that the official responsibility, and this is coming from the state's website, the official responsibility of the lieutenant governor are set forth in Article 5 of the Constitution of Virginia. That's my Constitution voice.
Nicely done.
According to the Constitution of Virginia, the lieutenant governor's official duties are to serve as president of the Senate and preside over the Senate. Other than the official verbiage, how do you see the importance of this particular office?
Yeah, so when I try and talk, first of all, nobody knows what a lieutenant governor is. I mean, it's just, it's pretty wide, open question oftentimes. So it's akin to the vice president, right? You are second in command. If anything should happen to the governor, God forbid, you enter that role. You take on the role of governor. You preside over the Senate. And in Virginia, our General Assembly meets for either 45 days or 60 days a year. And you gavel in and gavel out. And if there are any ties in the Senate, just as in the United States Senate, you
Right.
break those ties. Outside of that, you got some roles on some boards, the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, the Virginia Tourism Authority. It's supposed to be part-time, just like City Council, part-time. I'd make it full-time, and you have a statewide platform to make as whatever you want with it. And I have a couple of ideas on what I do, but you seem to be you have some more questions there, I could tell.
Well, so it's like Kamala Jr.
I do have a Kamala outfit on right now, I'm just going to say.
Where your chucks at, man?
I know. I do have a pair.
Okay. Well, chucks and pearls.
Yeah.
This next question is a two-parter, and I think on the state level, I mean, I think even on a national level, redistricting is like the number one thing that's come almost like you don't know where you got the virus from. Did the virus come from the cold but redistricting. That's one of those words for me, yeah. When you have the majority party in state House of Delegates and the state Senates, so they get to draw the lines, I guess, for example, if you're going to say, well, Norfolk should be, and the way Norfolk is cut up is kind of, it reminds me of growing up as a kid here, kind of like, it's like on this side of the tracks, or you have we're in East Main Street, but once you cross Granby Street, it's west.
Yeah.
And then you have north, and you have, of course, the southern part. But the question is, why is redistricting a good or bad idea? And in addition to that, this is something that's kind of like, personal to me, because we went through it in Norfolk years ago when they finally went to the ward system. Mm-hmm. Some of the localities in the Commonwealth, they have at-large seats. Mm-hmm. And so what that does historically is just like, it's another way of suppressing the vote when you don't have districts or wards. So those are the two questions. One is the redistricting, and the other one is what do you think about, and I don't know if the lieutenant governor has the power to conquer all those things, but I just want to hear your opinion.
Sure. So redistricting happens once every 10 years in Virginia, and it comes after the census. So 2021 is the year that it's supposed to happen. Now, unfortunately, the census data is late because of the past administration was the past administration.
I know what happened. Yeah.
They can, yes, let's just put that in the past. But so we are going to be looking at new districts. And so what you ideally want is you want districts that are compact and contiguous. So we have districts, for example, the Senate District 6 that...
Did you say contiguous?
Contiguous, side by side, next to each other.
I'm not going to like I know everything.
So listen, Senate District 6
okay.
that Linwood Lewis holds. He represents the entire Eastern Shore,
Okay.
half of Norfolk, and then it goes up to Matthews County. They don't even touch. They're not even
northern
connected.
neck? Where's Matthews
Yeah,
County?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
northern
But they're
neck.
not even touching. They're not connected. So contiguous means all in one. And compact means that
Wow.
it's not like spread out.
Okay.
So you can't get to all of it. So that's what redistricting should do, is it should create that. Now, the issue has been, and this is where the politics comes in,
Okay.
is that it's the politicians have drawn their districts instead of the voters drawing their districts. And so had been a move for many years, and I was part of it, called One Virginia 2021, leading up to 2021, where we had been trying to get a nonpartisan redistricting commission created, where you didn't have the politicians in the room. There was a compromise. When the Republicans were still in charge and the Democrats compromised, and they created a system that was half citizens and half legislators. And in 29, and it had to get voted on 2 years in a row to be in the Constitution. Okay, so it had to be voted on 2 years in a row, and then it had to go on the ballot, which happened this past November, to be instituted in the Constitution. So legislators voted for it in 2019, and in 2020, when the Democrats then had power, they said, wait a second, maybe we don't like this anymore. But then there's just a lot of confusion. So listen, it's not great what they passed. It's not perfect. I'm hoping that this will be better and they'll get it right. And now they're in this process of trying to go through this whole commission. It's very complex, but here's what's going to happen. And this is way too in the weeds, folks. I'm so sorry. But if you're in a delegate seat, they run every 2 years.
Right.
For this November, because they didn't have their act together with the last administration, they're not going to have the numbers in time, so they can't create the redistricting. So they're going to have to run on their old districts in 2021, and it's very likely they're going to have to run again in 2022 on their new districts, and yet again in 2023. So they're going to have to run 3 years in a row. It's going to be a mess. So why is it important? Because you want legislators that live where you are, know where you are part of your community. When it's too broad and too gerrymandered, and they just pack in various districts and
Right.
issues. That's number one. Number two is at a local level, municipalities. How should those be elected, whether it's a board of supervisors or a city council? If a city or municipality is large enough, I think absolutely there should be districts. It's too onerous. It's too difficult
Right.
for people to run citywide. It's very costly. It's very, very difficult, and it limits how many people could be there. So, but I would say though, it really depends on the size of the municipality.
Right,
So in
right.
that regard, I would really leave it up to the municipalities. Here's the thing though. Again, I'm the only candidate running who understands how things work at the local level. And I think that is one of the things where I really differentiate in this race.
Okay. Well, I get that. I get that 100%. And I guess if you have a little county, then it won't matter. But
You have 12,000 people in the
yeah.
county.
But if you're talking the 7 cities, I mean,
Yeah.
each city is is a huge city. They don't even have. It's not even a county. I used to advocate for the county of Hampton Roads, and just have like the borough of New York,
Yeah,
and just have each city have their own decision-making board. But man, the way Norfolk and Virginia Beach going, it's not going to never happen. But
Oh, don't say never say never. That's one of the things I'm really proud of, though, is on the city council, I really tried to think regionally, right? That we could work together, whether it's our regional broadband ring, it's tackling economic development, tackling flooding issues. I serve on the regional transit board because
Right.
bus systems, you can't just have Norfolk have one system and Virginia Beach has another and Chesapeake has another, because people are living in one place and working in other places. So we brought the first ever regional funding to Hampton Roads to deal with our bus system. So anyway, I think we need to, don't give up on the regional aspect.
I'm not. It's just I saw the rendering for the casino the other day in Norfolk, and I was like, see, if Virginia Beach would have just had the light rail to the oceanfront, and I'm thinking regionally because I'm thinking like, what a destination that would be if for the summer you could go down to the oceanfront and spend time, and then you had the casino downtown. I mean, but that's just me. But one thing I want to kind of segue a little bit because we only we could do this all day, but I know we have limited time. You gotta get out here and shake some hand,
Kiss
pound
some
some
babies.
flesh, kiss some babies, all that.
Only with a mask on.
only with the mask on. As a union guy, now I worked at the union along with my producer, Mike Pittman. We worked in the union together. And as a union guy, that was the only time that I saw equity and fairness from the perspective of a working man. And SB 939 was passed into law, which allowed local governments to bargain collectively with unions. And what that actually means is that, okay, when I lived in D.C., they had ASME, which is the American Municipal Government Employees Union. And so I believe that with respect to personnel issues and the protections that it allows, because one thing, when we have our city council, but the city manager actually deals with the personnel issues.
Correct.
And so one of the things that are in play, I know when I worked for the city, and I had an issue, they were saying, well, the first person you need to go talk to is your supervisor. And I was like, but suppose that's the person that's harassing me.
Right.
That's crazy. And we had no fallback. So basically, long story short, how do you feel about, this bill, and how do you feel about some of the local governments that have pretty much enjoyed no oversight from the city council as far as personnel issues?
Well, listen, I think it's exciting that we've gotten to the point where this legislation was passed. Our sister city, Alexandria, just passed legislation to start it. We are looking at it in Norfolk as well. It's complicated. It's going to cost the city some money, but at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do to provide a voice to the workers. I mean, listen, we have 5,000, 6,000 employees. The most important asset that we have in our city is our employees, and so we've got to make sure that they have that voice and have that ability. So, I mean, I'm in favor of it, but it's going to be complicated and it's going to cost some money, but it's the right thing to do.
Well, I think it may cost some money on the front end to allow collective bargaining, but when you have satisfied employees, you have less turnover, you have less training costs, you have less cost of human resources.
Absolutely.
So and you when you show that you value employees, it's always a win-win. So I think it's more or less the mindset that has to be changed.
I think so. I mean, this is, we often talk about capital improvement projects, but we forget to talk about human capital improvement projects.
Right.
And so we got to work on that. And one of the things this budget that we're contemplating right now does provide for a 3% increase across the board for all employees. We're increasing public safety pay. It's tough. Coming out of this pandemic, it's not been easy.
It's a little tough.
But yeah.
Okay. Another good segue. As we move towards, and I don't, I'm not going to go there, but I know that they were saying like, okay, we're going to wait till 2024 to legalize marijuana, and then the governor was like, nah, July. And I was like, oh well, I'm not saying that for me personally, but I was happy for on a lot of different scales because of and this kind of a state issue is where it is a state issue. What would you like to see done to ensure that the disaffected communities that have suffered, because I know a lot of communities suffer under these marijuana laws. They really suffer, and I call them weed laws. And it includes the state's, as far as the state's ability to tax this industry, where we're going to, all the people, it's almost like, I guess, all these people were arrested. All these people were stopped and pulled over. And so now that it's going to be legal, who's going to be the beneficiary, right, as far as like, okay, are there going to be any minority-owned dispensaries or, that's the people who were directly affected. And the other big piece of that is the drug testing piece. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, if it's legal, when you're going to get a job, they don't say, well, I'm going to test to see if you drank last night. So, how's that going to affect employment? So it's still some loose ends. What do you stand on all those?
Well, listen, I think, first of all, the war on drugs never worked. Let's start with there, right? That was awful.
Indeed.
And And it resulted in a lot of people of color being incarcerated, and now that's on their records. And so I think getting to one of the questions that you have, the idea of expungement of past offenses, I think that absolutely needs to be considered, and hope that gets passed in the General Assembly. I support that for sure. In terms of, listen, I'm thrilled that we're going ahead with legalization now because, again, it is this idea of incarcerating people, fining people. People of color have disproportionately been affected by this issue.
Right.
So this is the right thing to do. But it's complicated. How do we get to this whole issue of who gets licenses, where does it, what's the taxation, et cetera? So we weren't ready yet. So I think it's going to, I'd like to see it done before 2024, but it's going to take some time. But we absolutely need to make sure that the people have an equity lens as we think about who's going to benefit from this. Mm-hmm. Who's going to make money? Is it just going to be big white pharma companies?
Right.
Or is it going to be folks in our communities? You've got to make sure it's accessible, the licenses are accessible, and they're not too expensive. I worry that we're going to get really excited about the taxes and tax too much, and then you just basically, you don't get rid of the black market. So you got to be careful there on how that happens as well. So it's complicated, but the good news is, good news, bad news. Virginia isn't first, but we can watch and look at what other states where they've done it well, and we hopefully we'll do the right thing.
Right. And in addition to what you're saying, it's almost kind of like when you think about, I think when people say, okay, yeah, it's going to be July, I think people are, and it's going to take us to our next question, people just, tired of being arrested and harassed. Yeah. So it's like, it's almost like a trade-off. I mean, we don't want to see.
It's a criminal justice issue. It's not just a matter of people want to enjoy marijuana. It's a criminal justice issue, plain and simple.
You said it's a criminal justice issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only, like I said, one of the things that we may deal with is that, I guess I don't want to see another person pulled over, and this kind of just takes us to our next question. It's like probably the most perplexing issue, even on a local, a state, or federal level, is what's going on in policing. It's the city, it's the Commonwealth, it's the nation. It's what's going on as far as issues in policing. So all these things and the subsequent killing of unarmed black people. And I said it again, the subsequent killing of unarmed black people. And I know that's really complicated. But so let's just say you had a magic wand. What would you do?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's just been a tough time. And let's just face it, this has been happening for decades, centuries.
King, yes.
Right?
Well,
but now we
televised since Rodney
right,
King,
but now we have cell phone coverage, so we can at least start to see it. So the outrage that's there, it's just, I mean, it's devastating for so many people. I worry about the mental health of our community too, as we see this over and over and over and over again. But magic wand, a couple of things. I would make sure that every municipality had a citizen review panel. I think we need to have independent oversight.
With subpoena power?
With subpoena power.
Okay, there we go.
That's what I'm working on. That's what I've asked the mayor and the city manager. That's what I think we need in Norfolk, but I think we need elsewhere as well. I mean, you got to have that oversight. I mean, that's not unlike what you were talking about with collective bargaining too, right? There's a theme here, right? That you've got to have accountability at the end of the day.
Accountability, exactly.
So that's number one. Number two is I think our police departments need to be reflective of the communities they serve, right? You shouldn't be afraid of the department that's supposed to be serving and protecting you. And and if you're going home at the end of the day to the neighborhood that you serve, you're gonna be a lot less likely to pull out a gun on somebody because you know you go to church with that person, or you live down the street from that person. So that's number two, is we have to make sure that we're recruiting from our neighborhoods.
Exactly.
The third is we've got to invest in more training.
The training is bad.
It has to be longer. It has to train people on issues of mental health, on people with disabilities. We've got to do better with regard to that as well. And at the end of the day, we also have to pay appropriately so we get the right people,
Right.
And so, you know, it's a very complex issue. But, you know, I've got 3 boys.
I was about to I want to bring your family into this way. No, I know you. I know you have sons.
I have 3 boys. I don't have to have the talk with my boys.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not going to, just because when they get pulled over, they're not going to have to fear for their lives.
Right.
And that should never be the case.
And I did have to talk with my sons. I have 2 sons, and I still, and one is 29 and one is 32. And I still, I'm like, man, I don't even like to get a phone call from my mother or anybody from any of their mothers. I'm like, don't call me. But one of the things that kind of when you talked about, and I try to bring this proposal to the city. Really, I did. With what they're doing with all the housing, why not have a policy of workforce housing? Mm-hmm. Where, like you said, even if you go and look at some of the HUD properties in like Huntersville and Barrard Park and those areas, if you have, let's say, a policeman, a fireman there, a teacher there, people who actually,
yes,
you know, if your teachers live in that community and their kids go to the school, they're part of that. If your policemen live in a community, they really are your streets now because
yes,
you know you live there. And so even with firemen, and I wanted to open up a program for like teachers at ODU, teachers at TCC, Norfolk State. You know, why not rebuild with them? Because we lose so much of our talent and wealth to some of the suburban cities that surround Norfolk. So I was like, why not have an aggressive, you know, workforce housing policy where, let's say, if you work for the city for 3 years or in that position, then
you can forgive some sort of the loan or
you
have
ought,
some
like FHA.
subsidy or all of those things.
Right.
Listen, affordable housing, we could have a whole 3-hour discussion on this one.
True.
It's a huge issue, and it's the missing middle, right? Like, how do you find that's affordable workforce housing? Absolutely, I agree with all those things. I served on the planning commission before I came on city council. Those are the things that we're looking at. We're looking at inclusionary housing. So when we have new apartment buildings and multi-family properties, that there has to be a percentage of affordable housing that's in there. I mean, those are the things. We have to be more progressive in our housing policy, without a doubt.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I know you this is campaign season, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
And
so can I give a plug?
Give a plug. Give me give the websites, whatever you want. Talk to us.
Awesome. So the website is Andria for Virginia, ANDRIA FOR Virginia.com. And you can learn more there. There we go. We call it the A team. Here we go. Get this on camera here. Hello.
Have at it.
Yeah, we've got a primary June 8th. So anybody can vote. We don't register by party in Virginia. And you can actually start voting now. We started voting last Friday.
I remember
and anybody can go to their voter registrar's office and vote in person. You can request a ballot up until, I think it's June, maybe, if you go to AndriaForVirginia.com/vote, you can find out all that information. But we need somebody, we need the 757 and the 804. We need to bring Hampton Roads to the state capitol, and I'm looking forward to doing that and representing proudly.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea McClellan, from the A-Team.
There you go.
And I wish you well in your campaign.
Thanks, Bob.
And you guys, we'll see you next time.